Hey there guys, this is going to be part 2 of the Sunken Greenhouse Revival, and I'm pretty excited because this video represents a significant turning point in the fact that the greenhouse is now officially functional as a greenhouse once again. There's not another thing I need to do to it for it to operate as a way to keep plants warm when the temperatures are cool. Obviously that's not a problem right now because it's summertime here in Arizona and I'm not going to be using this until the fall, but that's why I'm doing the work now. So let me get you caught up to date on all the things I did to it to put the new polycarbonate on, the roofing, the vents, things like that, and then I will maybe touch on some of those things and talk about the next couple of things I plan to do to this. The first part of re-roofing the greenhouse was really just a big recycling project, as I'm using old roofing panels that were taken off of my house after we had the roof replaced from the hailstorm. If these panels don't look very badly damaged, it's because about half of my house roof was badly damaged and the other half that had more glancing blows had just very small dents, so I'm trying to use all this nicer stuff on projects. On the south side of the greenhouse, I'm using the same Tough-Tex polycarbonate panels that I used the first time around. I know it may seem odd because they were damaged by the hail the first time, but I do think they are the most affordable option, and the hailstorm, in my opinion, was more of an anomaly, and I've seen these panels hold up to marble-size hail with no problems. To trim out the greenhouse, I'm using slightly larger pieces of L flashing than I did the first time around. They did cost a bit more, but I'm really happy with the way it looks versus the first time around. And then one thing I did different when I'm putting this ridge cap on is that I used a string line to make sure everything was perfectly level, whereas the first time I didn't, and I really was never happy with the way the ridge cap kind of sat on the first version of the greenhouse. And you'll see how that looks nice and straight right here. So you just saw me add the hinged covers over both of those vent openings, but they are not waterproof yet as those hinges aren't going to hold out any water. So what I've done is gotten a couple pieces of scrap flashing that I used on the corners or the edges of the roof, and I just put them together, folded down the sides to kind of make a Z flashing, and these are going to fit right underneath the ridge cap and over the hinge. Something like this. It'll be kind of like that, and this will be able to flex up like that. Just in time for the rain. Now that the vent windows are dried in on the outside, I'm going to be installing these automatic window openers on the inside. These are made for greenhouses, and this is kind of like a little hinge mechanism that mounts to the inside of the window, and it has this little piston here that expands when the heat increases. it inserts like this, and then as the piston increases, it opens the window. So I'm going to install these and see how they work. So I originally installed this without the piston on it, which is what the instructions said to do. But then when I installed the piston, the door was like halfway open, and I wanted to see what it would be like for when this is like, say, 50 or 60 degrees at night, and the door should be closing. So I put this in the refrigerator just for a little bit to cool it down, maybe to about 50 or 60, and that's how I installed it. And right now I'm just going to wait, and it looks like it's already expanded a little bit, but I'm just gonna let it heat up and see how far it expands, and then I will adjust this little threaded thing as needed. Now I'm on the outside of the greenhouse, and you can see it is already working. This is just a couple of minutes after I installed it, and it's already opened a few inches, so I'm gonna give it another 45 or so and see what it looks like then. It's been about an hour since I installed them, and I'm guessing they are both pretty much fully extended. Today is a bit of an overcast day, so I'm guessing on a hotter day they may expand just a little bit further, but so far it's looking pretty good. I just need to make sure that these vent doors don't end up running into the covers that I installed to protect the hinge, but that shouldn't be too hard, just as simple as spinning that piston in there to adjust it up or down. It's about 6:30 in the morning and 73 degrees right now, and it looks like the automatic vent openers closed overnight as they were supposed to. So hopefully I won't have to do much, if any, adjustment. But you can see when I try to peel it up, it's being held closed by the mechanism on the inside. And I need to get some coffee. Okay, so we're down in the greenhouse now, and you just saw how everything got to the point of where it is. And I'm guessing you may have some questions on why I chose to recover the greenhouse in the roofing that I did. And I'm going to go ahead and try to answer those questions now. Starting with the north side of the greenhouse that has the metal roofing on it, I'm guessing some will wonder if metal roofing is the best choice of material for a greenhouse. And I will say it is likely not. The metal will provide a bit more thermal transfer of the heat, or hot and cold, and it will not insulate that well, but the price was right. It is leftover roofing from my house after the hailstorm, so it was all free to me. And being that this is the north side of the greenhouse, it is never going to see sun during the fall, winter, and early spring growing times, so there was really no advantage for me ever having any sort of translucent material on that side. So that's why I went with the metal. If I find that I can't keep the temperatures up in here because of the metal, or I feel like it's transferring too much cold or lack of heat, whatever you want to call, then maybe I could put some insulation or something like that, just to provide a little more heat retention. But I'm just going to see how it goes. And moving on to the south side of the greenhouse, or the working side of the greenhouse, whatever you want to call it, I'm guessing some of you may be wondering why I chose to recover this in the same polycarbonate panels that I had it covered with the first time that ended up getting damaged by hail. And the quick answer is that it just came down to economics or personal finance or budgeting reasons. I got all of these panels to cover the south slope and both sides of the walls for under 300 bucks. I think it was like 260 some dollars. And when I looked at other options of double wall panels, which a lot of you recommended to me, and they look awesome, and some of them claim to be hail proof, they were upwards of $1,000 or more to get the material that I needed to cover the south slope and the walls. And I figured for that cost, it just was not worth it. And the other fact is that when I had this greenhouse originally covered, we had hail several times, even up to marble size hail, and those panels, or these panels, held up just fine. So I really feel like it's a risk worth taking, and for economic reasons, I guess I could recover it 3 or 4 times for the cost of getting those other panels that claim to be hail proof. But I don't really think anything is hail proof if the hail gets to a certain size. And one other thing I forget to mention about using these polycarbonate panels is that once I get my shade structure or shade cloth in place, they will also have a bit of extra protection. So that's another reason why I just don't think it was worth the extra expense to go to some of the fancier panels. So hopefully that answered any questions you guys might have had regarding the roofing that I used. Another question that I'm quite sure you guys might be wondering about is how these automatic vent openers are working. And I will say they've been installed for almost 2 weeks now, and they have been working flawlessly. When I come out here around 6:30 in the morning just with a cup of coffee just to check on things, they are closed fully. And a couple hours later, around 8:30, 9 o'clock, I see them starting to pop open. And then by the middle of the day, they are open fully, probably maybe 10 or 12 inches. So they're working really well. I added some wire mesh here to prevent birds and things from getting in when they are open. There is still a slit that's open that they could get through, but in 2 weeks so far, it's all been working really well. Alright, so I think that pretty much covers everything that I did for this video. I didn't really show much on the solar ventilation fan other than the fact that it wasn't there when I was installing the polycarbonate panels, and at some point thereafter it appeared. So I will post a link to the original build video where I installed that fan and gave a demo on how it can vent the greenhouse. But with that said, I obviously installed the other 2 vents because I felt the greenhouse could definitely use a bit more ventilation. So what's up next in this series that I need to do to get this greenhouse ready for the fall and winter growing season? Well, there's really nothing that I need to do because it is totally ready to grow in right now, but there's plenty of things that I want to do that I mentioned in the Sunken Greenhouse Revival Plans video. And so I think to best explain those, because these plans change all the time, I'm going to grab the camera and just walk around and talk about some of those things, because those will be the subjects of the next couple of videos, or Sunken Greenhouse videos. Starting at the top of the greenhouse, one of the biggest projects I want to complete before the growing season is to add some sort of movable shade structure. As I mentioned in the first greenhouse revival video, I'm thinking of either some sort of shade panels that will slide over this south slope, or more realistically, I will create a framework of maybe electrical conduit or something that will be mounted just above the south slope, and I'll have a shade cloth that can get pulled over it. I definitely think that would be the most cost-effective method, but I do like engineering weird things, so I may go with the panels. One other little update that I will do is modifying this little wind diverter. If you look at the original build series, this was kind of intended to direct wind into those windows, and I don't think it was as effective as I was thinking, so I either may remove it or I may make it slightly bigger. But that probably won't get done by the beginning of the growing season. Also in the plans is to reinstall gutters on the south and the north drip edges of the greenhouse. I did have some custom gutters that I made originally during the first build out of some L flashing, but they were pretty badly damaged from the hailstorm, so I'm gonna have to make some more, and those will catch all the rain runoff that comes off the roof of the greenhouse, and that runoff eventually goes in these PVC pipes and then runs down to some IBC totes that I have in my garden, and I'll put a link to that original video if you want to check that out. In addition to that, I'll also be adding some railing along these stairs at the request of my wife. She's been asking for that for quite a while, and I guess I've been delaying for long enough. I've just been dreading having to cut this bush back to allow a little bit of room to walk around the railing. And then the next major project is going to be down inside the greenhouse, which is not going to be fun to do, but it will be taking these shelves away and installing a gabion wall along that back side just to control any erosion, and I'll probably continue it along that back wall there. I think it'll look nice, and it'll keep little bits of erosion like this happening, and I don't know, it's just time for it. I'll also be taking out this middle support post that's always just been kind of in the way and replacing it with a couple of metal supports that I will tie into these H posts. that will give that extra support that I just like to have for this beam. As I mentioned before, this beam probably doesn't need any extra support, but you know, if you got the extra steel, well, why not? Alright guys, this is pretty much going to be the end of the video. So I'm going to leave you with a different view of the greenhouse than you've ever seen before, because like a red-headed stepchild, even they need their day in the sunshine. Just not too much sunshine. So anyways, I appreciate you guys watching. Check me out on Instagram if you want to see any behind the scenes things. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Definitely subscribe to see future updates of this and all my other random projects. And one other thing I wanted to point out, if some of you noticed I had a mustache on in some of those clips, yes I did. That was kind of a little trial thing at the fire station we did. You may see it again in the future because I kind of have a special project that I want to do, and I plan on growing a mustache out for it. So I'll give you a hint, Ron Swanson canoe. So I'll leave you guys with that. I will see you next time.